Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Live in Italy Magazine's YouTube channel. If you've ever thought about owning a property and running a vacation rental or more than one, you'll be delighted to meet today Stephen and Ricardo, who are originally from the United States and Portugal, but are now living in the Piemonte region. And it's exciting to know that they both had really great careers before making their permanent life in Italy, but now are pursuing their passion project, which is restoring homes in Italy and sharing them with the rest of the world. My name is Lisa Morales, and I am the editor of Live in Italy Magazine, a travel and lifestyle publication dedicated to all things Italy. So Stephen and Ricardo, it's been a while, but we're finally together. So welcome to the channel.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Very nice to be here. Worth the wait.
Yes, of course. And I'm so excited to get to know you more. We're going to be talking about April is a very significant month for you because you recently just opened one of your newest projects and properties, but we'll get to that in a minute. But of course, as you know, this series is called Chat with an Expat. So we want to get to know you a little bit more. So let's start with you, Stephen. Where are you originally from?
Connecticut. I grew up about an hour outside of New York City.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So you are a big city person and you eventually found yourself in Italy, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, Ricardo, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Lisbon, and I moved to London where I met Stephen and moved to London in 92 and then met Stephen later on. So yes, and then from there I moved to the US and we moved all around the US and then eventually back to Europe, to Munich and then Italy. And now we're here.
That's amazing. So let's backtrack a bit. So in Lisbon, you were born and raised there. You are by profession an interior designer. So tell us a bit about that and how I guess it led to all this travel.
I studied more information systems, and I've done a lot of graphic design and painting courses. So I'm not by education an interior designer. I'm more, but I kind of, with all these renovations going on, that's what I've been mostly doing for the past, 17 years. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it.
That's good. Okay, so what about you, Stephen? You have, of course, you have a resume on LinkedIn, and I went through that to find out a bit of information about you, and then reading on the property. You had a very prominent position with Versace, right?
Correct. I was the chief marketing officer for Versace in Milan. I actually worked there twice. Over a period of years, for probably a little more than 6 years, overseeing marketing, PR, website, digital marketing, stores, events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything that falls under the marketing and communications umbrella. And prior to that, or when I lived in the US, most of my career was in media and entertainment.
Right. So is it the career at Versace that brought you to Italy? Because I know you said that there's London in between there.
Yeah, it was definitely. We found Piemonte, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little more detail. But I was living in Milan, or we were living in Milan, looking for a weekend place to get out of the city. And Piemonte is really conveniently located to Milan, to Turin, to Genova. And you can get here on a Friday night out of the city in about 90 minutes. So it was while I was working at Versace that we started house hunting in this region, and ultimately decided to make it our home.
Nice. And it's such a beautiful region. Very good. So let's talk a bit about how you met.
Well, it was actually the first time I was working at Versace. And I previously, in a past life, I had worked at Cartoon Network. As I mentioned, I worked in entertainment.
Right.
So I was part of the launch team of Cartoon Network in America. And then I became the creative director for Cartoon Network around the world as we launched it in many countries, happily, all of which really liked the channel. So I was working for Versace and I went back to London on a business trip. And I had a reunion dinner one night with my old Cartoon Network team from Europe. Who I hadn't seen in years. And at that restaurant, I met with Ricardo, and we sort of became fast friends. And subsequently, years after a couple of years, I said, I'm going back to America. I had finished my first stint at Versace.
Right.
And I said, you wouldn't want to come, would you? And he said, yeah, I will. And so that all started really about 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's a beautiful story. So what did you think, Ricardo, about moving to the United States?
I loved it. First, we moved to San Francisco. So it was a big shock moving from London, to San Francisco. I'd not been. I've only been to New York and the East Coast. And so it was a big change. I moved, dog and everything. So it was a lot of fun. And then we were, I think, San Francisco for about a year, 6 months, something like that. And then from there, we moved to Dallas. And, then we kind of covered the US really from coast to coast. But it's been a lot of fun.
So I brought him to Texas to give him an authentic American experience.
And do you feel that you definitely got it, right? Because like
San Francisco,
I really did. It was very nice. It was
more than he bargained for.
Yeah. Was it a bit of a culture shock though?
It was too, yes. I preferred the San Francisco coast was nicer too, whatever. But everybody was great in Texas too, and very welcoming, and so it was very nice. I enjoyed it. But a culture shock, yes.
And your English is excellent. So where did you learn English?
So I moved to London when I was 19, and I grew up in Lisbon, and I went to an English school there too. So yes, I think now my accent is a little more American, but
it's true.
I think I should speak well English because
no, perfect. Perfectly well. And I'm presuming you both speak Italian, right?
Yes.
Well, I will say to that point, Ricardo speaks much better than I do. I have been a little bit of a slower learner. I think, Europeans obviously learning other romantic languages have an advantage. But also for me, for all those years I worked at Versace in Milan, we spoke English at work. The CEO was British. A lot of the designers were from London, which is not uncommon. I mean, a lot of the designers in fashion in Milan come from Central St. Martin's or some of the other great London design schools. So because it was an international group, and Donatella, of course, is completely fluent in English. And frankly, to her, she views it as a multinational company, which it is. And I think she likes to hear people speaking English. It feels a little less provincial to her. So during my work day, when normally I would expect to be conversing in Italian all day long, I wasn't. So I kind of, by the time I got to Piemonte, I had shopping and dining Italian down. And now that I am in the hospitality business in Italy, I am working very hard on my Italian lessons to improve my fluency.
Very good. Yes, because we'll get more into the concepts of vacation rentals and rental homes and that in a little bit. But when you talked about having an escape for both of you from Milan into the countryside, it seems that it's not just foreigners. That's something that a lot of Italian residents want as well, too, right?
It is, I would say it's hard to generalize, but as I'm sure you know, Italians really, really love beach culture and the coast. So I would say it will be more common for the Italians to be headed to water somewhere, anywhere, every chance they get, rather than a Piemonte, the countryside. But that, that's not universally true. But here, the folks who are buying second homes or moving to Piemonte, for instance, it's much more expats than Italians.
Okay.
And just simply this isn't a beach town, but we're only an hour and a half from Liguria, and the beach is there, so it's actually it's nicely accessible even for a day trip.
That's excellent. So I guess we should just backtrack a little bit in the timeline. So you were in Texas, and Ricardo moved with you there, was happy in the United States. So what brought you to Italy? Was it the career in Milan then?
So
first to Munich, yes.
It was. So I was at that time, we were in Los Angeles. We'd made our way from Texas, winding through California, and ended up in Los Angeles. And I was working at Sony Pictures Television and received a telephone call, a headhunter, who was wanted to know if I would consider coming back to Europe. And again, years ago, I had worked at Versace for a few years, so I'd been here once. But this headhunter, who knew me quite well, had informed me that a very wealthy British Indian family had bought a German fashion brand called Escada. And Escada is based in Munich. I don't know if you know Escada. It's not. It
sounds familiar, but I think it's just one of those names that.
No, actually, Lisa, I think you're too young to know Escada. That's the problem. But my mother wore Escada. So Escada is, it's a legacy brand in fashion, not like a Gucci or a Bottega or a Prada, but it's a brand that during the 80s and 90s had a great amount of success, especially in America, in the United States, and in Europe. And this family, they own the biggest steel company in the world called ArcelorMittal. They had bought Escada with an eye to, I guess, getting out of the sort of not spending all their time on the boring steel industry and doing something a little sexy and fun.
Yeah.
And I was invited to fly from LA to London to meet this family, to talk to them about revitalizing Escada. And so our first step, and it was a job I took and did. So our first stop from Los Angeles coming to Europe together was actually to Munich, to work on the turnaround of Escada. And I was actually there for just about exactly a year when I received a call from Donatella Versace's office in Milan asking me to come to lunch. Which of course was an invitation.
That's a big deal.
yeah. It's not every day, Donatella.
Yeah, I know, really.
Are you available for lunch? So I freed up my calendar, and I went back to Milan, thinking it was kind of going to be a friendly catch up because we hadn't seen each other in years. And actually, I walked in the door and she said, "You have to come back." So I went back to Munich that night, and I said to Ricardo, they'd like me to come back to Versace. And I've never seen anybody pack so quickly as Ricardo did to get to Milan.
I was happy to move to Italy.
Yeah. Please, Ricardo, give us some insight because I mean, why were you so anxious to get back to Milan?
Oh, to me?
For you, because you're Latin.
No, okay, but I'm not from Milan. But yes, I don't know. I just wanted. I liked Munich, but I much prefer living in Italy. So as soon as I'm in Italy, it's like, okay, that's good. And I always loved Milan, and I knew Italy was my first place I visited as a kid.
And you've got some Italian ancestry.
And I have some Italian ancestry from Naples and whatever. And I like doing all that historical research. So I was very happy to, move to Italy and have the experience. And now I tell Stephen, I'm very happy and I don't want to move anywhere else. This is it.
Okay. So here's the key. All right.
He really, really loves Italy.
Yes.
I can see that. And, because we won't get into it so much, but there's a lot of people moving to Portugal these days too.
I know.
Foreigners. Yes. So it's very interesting to know that you, as somebody from Portugal, loves Italy so much. You're the first kind of expat chat, because usually it's like the Americans or, the British who really want to live there. So that's great. So what about in all this time, Ricardo, were you able to kind of work and pursue your own career goals in this time that you were like in different places?
So during the US, I worked mostly as a graphic designer for various agencies in California and in Dallas and mostly and LA. I was doing a lot of freelance work as a graphic designer. So that's really what I've been doing mostly. And at the same time, we started renovating houses in Venice and in Venice, California, and Dallas. So we kept developing and doing work, and so and I think that's really a passion. I think I should have been an architect by study, but I enjoy doing it. So I really like doing.
That's great. That's great. And so here you are, both in Milan. You both love it there. But at some point, and we've talked to other people about this, you decide to give up. Well, I guess maybe more so for you, Stephen, a very obviously great career, and go into a completely different field, kind of dedicated to your love for Italy, right? So how did that come about?
So I think, my career, as I said, has been mostly in fashion and luxury and media and entertainment. And you'd probably be hard pressed to think of two more stressful industries than fashion and media and entertainment. I think that I was thinking about my next chapter anyway. I think, as you probably know, Michael Kors purchased Versace. So it was a logical sort of time for me to be thinking about my next thing. And to be honest, I didn't want to just run to another Italian fashion brand. I wasn't interested in moving back to the States to go live in New York City. We had done London together. And London's great and we love it, but I fast forward, I think I was just ready for a very different kind of a life. And I also think during that time, all the years we've been together, we've done renovations and designs of properties. Ricardo mentioned a couple of them, but we've also done Buenos Aires. We did Portugal. We've always constantly, even though we both had careers, our love is old architecture, old houses. Architecture makes it sound very fancy, but we love old buildings, we love old houses, and we also aren't afraid of jumping in, doing a renovation and rescuing something. And it sort of feels like a calling to us. And Ricardo happens to be particularly talented at it. And also then we redesign and furnish them. And sometimes we sell them. Sometimes we rent them out. And sometimes we live in them ourselves.
Right. So this began what, in the past how many years?
I would say, I said we've been together 17 years. I would say we got into it pretty quickly. We were, I think, I don't think we did too much renovating in Dallas.
No.
We did a big renovation project. One thing I didn't mention is in my career, I made a detour a little bit. We made a detour between entertainment and fashion. I actually did a couple of years in Northern California in the wine business. I became chief marketing officer for Kendall Jackson.
Oh, okay. Big name.
Working with Jess Jackson, the guy who did that. So, and we did a big renovation in Healdsburg, California. So I would say we primarily have been involved in renovating our own places. And sometimes, these were places we found. Sometimes they were distressed properties. Healdsburg, we bought in an auction.
Yes.
Venice, California, we bought in an auction. So we find things that looked like a good opportunity that we thought had upside potential, and we'd get in there. So that is, that's kind of, I can't think of a time in these 17 years when we didn't have at least one renovation project or design project going on, again, in addition to our other jobs.
Right.
But it really, I would say it really took off, or we really went crazy when we got to Italy, because, we're operating and living in both the north of Italy in Piemonte and the south of Italy in Puglia.
Right.
And we've done properties in both places.
So really, this goes back to when you're in the United States. You would buy the property, restore the property, and then sell it. Yeah. So now, sorry, go ahead.
No, and when I say I and we certainly worked with building people, builders and craftsmen. I don't want to indicate that it's the two of us with a hammer and it. Sometimes, but really, we worked with.
We have to.
This is the team involved. But I'm saying is like you obviously came to Italy with prior experience of buying and restoring.
We did. We've done a few projects. Yes. We've done a few projects elsewhere. And I think with Italy, the thing that probably triggered our getting more aggressive is number one, there are so many gorgeous properties here, many of which are in distress. You're just because of things we don't need to get into here, but the brain drain and these little villages where the young people have left. Italy's just absolutely chock-a-block with gorgeous homes, with nobody living in them anymore. And so I think if you're not careful, you could get carried away. A lot of them are priced very.
Which we'll get to that, okay? When we get into the logistics of how many properties you have.
That will be the embarrassing part of this interview, or yet another embarrassing part.
Or the exciting
one.
But
I would say I'm just being honest. You kind of get the bug, just because sometimes I say I think we're doing it a little out of civic pride or responsibility to bring some of these great places back to life. And again, sometimes we find new owners from them. We get them all ready and they can sort of arrive from America or Britain or Scandinavia and move right in. We basically hand them the keys. Usually they're furnished. But yeah, and because the prices are in some cases so affordable compared to the rest of the world, it can be very appealing and fun and financially rewarding.
Well, 2 years ago, you probably know, there was a big marketing campaign for the €1 homes. So that's come up a lot in some of the past interviews, and the one article that we have on that has driven a lot of traffic. But from what I hear from people is that there's a way, and you could probably share your insights more, that's not necessarily the €1 project. What I like that you're saying is this kind of civic responsibility of taking something and reviving it, just like culture, just like the slow food movement. It's just like making something, have eternal life, ideally, that these things are passed on. So I don't want to get into too much, but have you tried out the €1 home project, or are you more or less going to the auction and just doing this all yourself?
Well, I would say in Puglia specifically, I mean, first of all, everybody's heard about the €1 homes.
Yes.
They caught everybody's attention, and it was a great idea. I think it, a lot sometimes in real estate, the golden rule is location, location, location.
Right.
And so for us, we ended up in Piemonte because of its proximity to Milan. We ended up in Puglia because friends had gone there and we were reading so much about it. We were highly intrigued. I think for those who are just interested in getting a property in Italy, anywhere in Italy, and they're not focused, I need to be here or I want to be here, but I'd like to, I'm interested in just going to an Italian village and starting a life there and on a budget, then €1 homes can be great. For us, Brindisi is one of the bigger towns in Puglia. Okay. Puglia, as you know, is red hot right now and has been for probably the last 5 to 10 years, but it's just, the real estate market's crazy there, again, driven largely by foreigners. And Brindisi is one of the big port towns in Puglia, beautiful. And yes. The United Nations office in Italy is down in Puglia, in Brindisi. And Brindisi has €1 buildings, historic buildings that they are selling for part.
Brindisi and Taranto.
And Taranto, yeah, right. So we have, done some drive-bys, and they're definitely distressed properties. And I'll be honest with you, we didn't jump on them because, you can buy a house or an apartment in Puglia in a nice town for, the prices are changing every day, but they start between, you can find maybe 20,000, less than 20,000, and going up from there. Right. And so, yes, I'm aware that there's a difference between €20,000 and €1. But I think there were still a lot of attractive properties that weren't outrageously priced in Puglia. And so we kind of focused on one town and did there. But sorry for the long answer, but I think
no, that's okay.
With the €1 properties, it really is. I know I've read lots of people who said, don't do it. It's a nightmare. It's too much work. It's going to cost you a fortune. Not necessarily.
They need a lot of renovating. Yeah. I checked the one in Taranto and I went to look at some and around, and they really were just shells. So, basically it's, of course, you're renovating something historical and beautiful, but it's going to cost to do the renovation. So it's a little bit of
the effect I hope that has is not just renovate some of these old buildings, but reinvigorate some of these towns that are kind of been forgotten. The young people have left. There are, they can be absolutely stunning villages in it, hilltop villages that are just filled with charm. And and oftentimes it's going to be we expats who go back and invest the time and the money and the effort to bring these places back to life. But it would be wonderful if many of these Italian villages were reinvigorated. Ricardo and I moved into an Italian village where really everybody there is elderly. They were shocked to see two foreign guys buy a house and renovate it in the middle of their little village. And I would say shocked and delighted, and we've been so warmly welcomed, but they loved the new energy. Yes. Their sons and daughters had left and they're all living in Milan or Geneva or London. So to see the two of us walk in and say, we live here now, we've made this our home, was really inspiring and heartening for them.
I see in general people really welcoming and seeing all these properties that are abandoned and falling down, you know, and to see new people come in and renovate, and they see it back to life to what it used to be. So I think they're appreciative in a way, like, you know, that
and it
they
seems
see.
generally, and it seems what you're doing as well is done respectfully. This is not like a form of gentrification or foreigners coming in and just bringing their whole life and wanting just to replace what they have already somewhere else. So that's great. You are reviving the towns.
Except we always try to put a McDonald's and a Starbucks in every project that we do.
Oh no!
No, I'm kidding. Our motto for renovation and restoration is to make the least intervention as possible, meaning we look for places with great old bones, maybe a little charm and character, but maybe some beautiful old cementini tile floors, maybe some stone walls, old brick walls.
Yeah.
And you know, our objective is to bring it back to its former glory, not, you know, to transform it into some place that will feel, I mean, some people might want to create modern penthouses, and that's great for them. It's not really our style. So usually, and to be honest, some of the builders we've worked with at the beginning,
they have a hard time.
They walk in and they think, you know, that we want to put in kind of very new, modern, slick floors and all recessed lighting, and they just assume. And again, some of this is because Italians have been living with old things for so long, they can't wait to get out of grandma's apartment, Nona's apartment, and get something brand new and shiny, and, you know, it feels modern because it's different. Well, for us, we don't have this kind of history in America, this kind of architecture. So to me, this is different, and I want to treasure it. And so we try to, as I said, we just try to recapture the original beauty of these places, and we purchase things where we kind of know there's beauty to be discovered and peeled away a few layers. But yes, we do. Thank you. We do it. Try to be very, very respectful. Yes. And I was saying the builders at the beginning are trying to foist all this modern stuff on us, and then about 2/3, and we're like, no. We're going to leave all the old wood there. Just wax it, you know. And at the beginning, they look at us like, oh, this is like, what are these guys doing? This is going to be a nightmare. And about 2/3 of the way through, usually the builders go, okay, now we see what you're doing. This is beautiful. Nice.
Well, and of course, Ricardo, you've brought in so much expertise into this concept that you have. So Ricardo or Stephen, who's going to tell me that? Okay, it started with your own home in Piemonte, and all of a sudden you're talking about all these other properties. So how many properties do you own currently?
Okay, you answer that.
I think in Italy there might be 10.
Wow.
I think.
Wow, that's why you're so hard to get a hold of.
No, I know.
Because I think a couple of times you'd be like, we're driving on our way to Puglia.
I'm aging
now.
Before you're out. But again, I think it's probably half up here in the north and half down here in the south. This is, you know, what we're going to talk about Villa Giara in a few minutes, but this is actually a combination of three different, what was originally three different homes that have been combined. We got a house not too far from here to live in while this was all going on, because honestly, it was a construction project for years. And we didn't want to live in the middle of it. We could have, but we just thought this is not the Italian life we want. Tractors and bulldozers every day and banging. So it's not quite as extreme as it sounds. And in Puglia, we didn't go buy all of them at once. We've gotten them one at a time, renovated them, and as I said, either sold them or we rent them out. But Puglia, more than Piemonte, we felt we arrived at a good time. We could see the demand. You know, people are buying things in Puglia off the internet. They're not even going to see them.
Wow.
That's how crazy it's gotten. Lots of Americans, but it's so we were there 4 years ago or so, and I think we could feel what was happening. And so, and things were still, we did not buy. There are quote unquote tourist towns in Puglia that are very expensive, that have, you know, that I would say you're not going to get any great deals there anymore. But we did find some real deals, and we knew what we could renovate, how we could renovate them for not too much money, and decorate them, and that people would want them either as a rental or purchase. And it turned out to be true. So, and again, we like doing it. I can't say it's particularly rational or practical. I mean, even Ricardo looking, you know, when I'll say, oh, I just saw this great old house or great apartment, I want you to come see it. He's like, no more. Why?
No more.
Why? And it's easy for me because he ends up doing most of the work. But I would say, you know, Puglia was definitely investment in a place that had, and we just happened to be, you know, foreigners can't get over as easily and to look at places as easily as us. And I would also say, we're not afraid to, you know, you may know, almost half the properties in Italy never go to a real estate agent. Right. So when you're looking from afar at the listings on Idealista or at Immobiliare or Gateway, that represents maybe 40 to 50% of what's available. The rest is for sale by owner. And those properties will never go to a real estate agent. It's just cultural. So we're here, we're driving up and down all the roads. We see the for sale signs, we'll call. We've also left notes. If we see an abandoned property that we just love, we'll leave a note and say, if you ever decide to sell, call us. And sometimes we get a call. And
there goes another property. Yes.
It's mostly Stephen. He goes around leaving notes. And
I will. I think I've gotten a little bit of a reputation for, but you know, we can respond really quickly to something. If you see this beautiful abandoned old building, and again, sometimes it's just that they don't even know that somebody would want to buy it. To them, it was an old farm building, or it's an ancestor's home that nobody has lived in for 30 years. So to them, it might have no value, or it might have sentimental value. But sometimes when you're there and you say, I love this and I would love to restore it and bring it back to the way it was when your great grandfather lived here, sometimes that's appealing to them, and they'll make a deal. Yes. But yeah, it's the convenience of living in Italy is that we can see all those for sale by owner signs that people back in the States or other places can't.
And that's a really valuable piece of advice. And before we get into Villa Giara, I'd like to maybe address some things that might come up as far as logistical questions, because you superficially make this sound easy, but two things have come up mostly, when talking about buying properties, is one, the bureaucratic nightmare in Italy, and two, financing. So if you could talk about those two things, that'd be great.
So I will say, I certainly know lots of people are afraid to try to do a project in Italy. They might not have full command of the language. They might not know anyone here. They might never have done a renovation before. It can be intimidating. I would say, yes, we had experience doing a couple things in America. We were by no means experts. I am not handy. But we tend to have a vision for the place, what we're trying to achieve and what it could be, so we can articulate that. We don't walk in with a builder and say, I don't know, just fix it up. So
especially with Ricardo around.
Especially, yes. Everybody should have a Ricardo.
Yeah.
I go see them. I make all the floor plans and plan it all. Stephen is great with space and, doing the divisions. And then, from there, in Italy, I think you always need to have the project approved by someone that is, legally able to approve those. And you need either a geometer or an architect. Mm-hmm. So we've worked with several geometers in the south and here, and it's really, if you're really into doing yourself the layout of the house, and the geometry is all you need, I think. And then I really just suggest getting recommendations on builders, because that's mostly who you're going to work with every day. Some might, if you're lucky, they might speak a little English. If not, you probably can get by. But yeah, I think the builder is the most important. Like for Villa Giara, it was really just mostly me, Stephen, and Claudio, the builder, and we did, the three of us, we kind of handled it all. So
I would, to Ricardo's point, we didn't move to Italy to hang out with expats all the time,
right?
But an expat network can be quite helpful for recommendations and suggestions. Mm-hmm. Even resources like you and all of these that bring people who love Italy and might want to create a life here. The folks who've already done it before can be invaluable as far as steering you in the directions of good, honest, reliable people. Right. I would say to your two questions, Lisa, for bureaucracy, I would honestly say I don't think, I with exception, it hasn't been more complicated for us than buying in America or buying in Portugal.
Maybe slower and
a little bit, but no, we have not encountered any
paperwork. Maybe, but
but it's you've got your professionals. If you've gotten directed to a professional notary or notaio, as Ricardo said, a geometra, you're working with a good builder with good references. You'll probably be fine. Now, Italy's a little different as far as sometimes you're buying some of these ancient properties. There can be, some of them can be, real estate is commonly left by parents to siblings. Mm-hmm. It oftentimes is the primary asset of the family. And so sometimes it wouldn't be unusual. You go to a village and you say, oh, this house is for sale. Who owns it? Well, there might be, 4 brothers and sisters, or brothers and sisters and cousins. Everybody's got those kinds of purchases. Or if there's obviously an unclear history of title, those kinds of things I would steer away from. Right. Trying to wrangle 8 cousins to agree on a price, just don't. But I would say our purchases and our transactions and the bureaucracy and getting a notaio and an appointment have been professionally handled, and we have not encountered any of those nightmare situations. Financing, we paid in cash for properties if they're less expensive. We've also done mortgages. And
in Italy, then. Yes.
In Italy.
Do you have resident status then?
We do. Yes. We do. And I secured that back when I was working in Milan. Ricardo, obviously being a citizen of Portugal, he can live and work anywhere. But we're both official residents of Italy. So I have a bank account at what I guess is the biggest bank in Italy, in Intesa San Paolo now. And I had a mortgage there. And I would say, again, it wasn't more difficult obtaining a mortgage. Actually, we've got 2 mortgages. It was not more difficult than it would have been probably in the States. So I would, and I would also say it a lot has to do with, working with reliable people, asking others who've worked with these people, or finding out expats who've come before you, or even Italians who've come before you and worked with people. Getting those advice and those suggestions. So many times I tell young Italians, here's what you need to do. you be the person, if there's a young Italian who speaks English, I say, you be the person who has the black book, who knows every good plumber, every good electrician, every good landscaper. You be, you know, because sometimes young Italians are finding a little difficult to start a career or find a job outside of a big city. And I keep saying, do you see all these foreigners arriving every day buying homes here? They don't speak Italian and they don't know anybody or anything. You be that guy or gal that I can send every expat to, and they know exactly who to steer you to, and you know what days the garbage gets picked up. So, but I would say certainly I have friends who've had more challenging situations than us in bureaucracy, or having roadblocks put in their way to get a project executed. That certainly happens. It tends to happen on bigger, more ambitious projects like the big Masseria farmhouses in Puglia. But knock on wood, I would not say that we're among them. I think we've been fortunate and pretty happy.
I think so.
I can just sense that in your confidence as we talk right now. And that's just great to know, because I do think the whole bureaucratic nightmare, the possibility, everything like that kind of deters people. So it's good to know that it is manageable, because there's always, you have to understand that you're dealing with a different culture and a different country. And obviously it can't always be your way, but it sounds like if you're patient enough, you can definitely make it happen. So during the,
I would just say to that point, don't come to Italy and bring a New York or London or Miami mentality that of you know, and you're going to tell them how things should be done, or what timetable everything's expected, and you're going to get furious if somebody doesn't show up, or it's, and I know that you've got a educated, informed viewership here. But you do have to kind of leave all of those expectations about how things should work or how things work at home behind, because it's their country, not mine or yours.
Right.
And yes, things operate a little bit differently, but the last thing you want to do is come and offend or disrespect your building team, which happens, you know, sometimes when things go south on a project, it's because some of us come from other places, and yes, it can be frustrating, but I think we have to be sensitive to this is their country, and work with them the way they work. And usually, you know, if you've got good people, they won't let you down. Good
advice. And I guess you agree, Ricardo. And did you find, you know, coming from Portugal, did you find that the culture is similar? Are you used to kind of, was it easier for you to adapt?
Yeah, I think it makes it easier. You know, even language, Portugal, I know it sounds completely different language, but it's pretty much the same language, really. So it's very easy to adapt. And I think culturally too, I think the way you know, bureaucracy and in Portugal and Italy is probably kind of pretty similar. So yeah, I think that it was an advantage for me, but it helped. So I think everything went smoothly. I enjoy a little this, you know, the Italian bureaucracy and their way of working. So it's, you know, you just really, I think it's the expectation. You just cannot come here imagining that you're renovating an apartment in London or New York and everything will just be like done and as you want. You need to work with them and always maintain, you know, make them all your friends. That's all I suggest.
The fastest way to get an Italian furious is to tell them, oh, in New York, I could get this done in 3 days.
Oh, you know, it's like, that's so offensive.
Kiss that relationship goodbye. Yes. You know, you just all have to remember it doesn't really matter how it works at home. That you will get there. You will get there. It might not be exactly how or on the schedule you'd envision, but you'll get there, and you'll probably be very, very happy with results. And there are many, many foreigners who live around us who've come and renovated homes here. And I don't know too many of them who aren't so happy, even though it was challenging or frustrating or not what they expected. I can't think of too many who aren't absolutely delighted at how things have worked out.
Yes.
Excellent.
And they'd probably do it again.
Good. And you did. So let's talk without further delay. This month has been significant for you, opening the property that I believe you are in right now in Colosso, right? So tell us about Villa Giara. So congratulations too, because I know this has been in the works for a while, right?
Yes, for about 3 years. Yes. And so finally we got, everything just got finished about, I don't know, a month ago, not even,
week.
2 weeks ago. And it finished the renovation, and it was me kicking the builders out, and guests came in, but it's been a lot of work.
Hold on. So 2 weeks done, and then guests came in. That's excellent.
It was really
it was like hammers down at midnight, and the next day it was filled with visitors. So just to take a step back, what Villa Giara is, our weekend getaway from Milan has now turned into what we call an Italian country inn. We ended up buying the first house, an old farmhouse that sits up on Colosso is in the middle of wine country in Piemonte. Piemonte is, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's north of Tuscany, and it is south of kind of the lakes region of Como, Maggiore, etc. And as far as cities, we're sort of in the triangle of Milan, Genova, and Turin or Torino. Colosso is a very beautiful hill town that's inside the triangle of wine towns, Alba, Asti, and Acquiterme. So it's a landscape similar to that in Tuscany, but probably even the hills are even higher. We look at the Alps, and so it really, really beautiful elevations all around you of hills and mountains, just lined with vineyards, dotted with farmhouses, topped with castles. It's not a discovered area like Tuscany or Sicily. It's been a little below the radar, but last year, the year before, Lonely Planet travel guide named Piemonte the #1 region in the world you must visit next. There were. So it's been a little below the radar.
Your extra guest, sorry, distraction.
Because it was just boy.
Speaking of truffles, that's Finn, and he is a Lagotto Romagnolo, which is an Italian breed bred specifically to find truffles.
Which he doesn't, but.
Oh, I was going to say that's very useful.
No, he's not here.
He doesn't.
Has not. It's been 3 years now, and he's not found a single truffle, even though really you could close your eyes and reach out and you probably find a truffle yourself. But no, he seems completely disinterested in finding one. So he's an adorable dog, but not a very good revenue stream.
Not a very good revenue.
So Villa Giara will be, we sit between Alba, Asti, and Acquiterme, and it will be 9 guest rooms, all en suite with private baths. There's large swimming pool. It sits up on top of the hill, so panoramic views of the vineyards and the village of Colosso up on top of the hill. Big swimming pool, yoga deck, et cetera, et cetera. So we've just completed it, and this is our first time actually getting into the hospitality business.
Yes.
So far, so good.
No experience, zero so far.
Okay. So the other properties are more, you're just buying, renovating, and then reselling. So this is actually going to be, like you said, your hospitality project.
Yeah, the others were really rental properties or properties for sale. This is us, hands-on, owner, operator, full-time, greeting the guests, carrying their
Nice.
luggage, making them breakfast.
Wow.
We're good. A whole new thing.
That's really great.
It is, I hope, some of your viewers and fans get to come visit some point in time, because it's a pretty special place, and I think they'll enjoy learning more and exploring this region, because lots of foreigners do not know the region at all, and they're all really pleasantly surprised, and some are just downright shocked, like, how did I not know about Piemonte?
Yes. And of course, wine tourism and wine travel is really big too. So you're just in the ideal location. Yes, it's not all about Tuscany. This is just great wines and a great region. And like you said, so scenic. So that's great. Well, fantastic. And so good to know that you're already receiving guests. You're expecting guests from, other countries, I'm presuming. Can you tell me where mostly you anticipate? The United States, or would it be the UK?
I think most in Piemonte, you get a lot of tourism from Scandinavia, so a lot of Norway and
Denmark,
Sweden, Denmark, and so a lot, but also Netherlands, Switzerland. I think we're getting a lot of requests from Northern Europe, and then we have some requests from the US, but not as many. And I know, I think tourism from the US went down a little to Italy for the past obviously the past 2 years.
Right.
But maybe it's starting to pick up again, and we hope so.
Yeah, well, I believe that this year will be great. And there's a lot of pent up desire. I mean, people are willing, people are just kind of maybe, securing those plans and looking for, any airfare deals if they exist right now. But I'm confident it's going to get back in motion. So, as you know, this area of the magazine is called Chat with an Expat. And I didn't know when we created this title, it would be a little controversial because of the word expat. It just rhymed and it sounded really cute. So it's up to you, but you're both expats. You're both expats living in Italy. So I'd like to know from both of you what your definition of that term is, what it means to you to be an expat or a foreigner living in Italy. Okay.
I don't really think.
I think to be an expatriate, I think you have to be a curious person. You have to be an adventurous person. You can't be somebody who clings to what they've always known and the comforts of home and the routines that you've to. I think you've got to be somebody who's charting points unknown and looking for new frontiers. And I think when I was young, I went to Japan and was able to travel a little bit to Europe and other places when I was a teenager. And I knew then that I didn't necessarily want a life. I certainly didn't want a life where I would just stay in the town I grew up in. I wanted to be exposed to different people, places, and things very, very much, which I just found exciting and inspiring. But I also wasn't afraid of going out and having some adventures and maybe being a little uncomfortable, maybe seeming foolish. It just that the jolt of the new and the unusual and the unfamiliar is very exciting to me. And I think that's the sort of thing that an expat thrives on. Right.
And
Ricardo? I think to me, it's kind of the same. It's experiencing the different cultures. I moved when I was 19 to London. I was there 13 years, then to the US, and then back to Europe. And so I love the adventure of moving and and learning the new language and how to do things in that country. So I don't know. I think being an expat is it's kind of an adventure it's living an adventurous life in a way. And I think now being in Italy, and because we go between really Piemonte in the north and Puglia in the south, it's kind of every time we move to one place or another, we kind of experiencing it all again, but without having to move countries anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Well, different climates, different culture, everything. I mean, I've learned from speaking with other Italians that there's a very much a regional pride. So there's very different culture within different regions. So that's great. It's so wonderful to see you both embracing that. It's exciting. Yes. So besides friends and family, what do you miss about your native countries?
Well, I think, I moved so when I was 19, and then a lot of my friends were also studying abroad or working abroad. And now a lot of them actually moved back and they live around Lisbon, and in Lisbon, all my family is there. So it's, and that's maybe a reason that I really like being in Italy, because I can still experience these different cultures and have an adventure. But I'm 2.5 hours from home, really. So it's quick, and so it's
that's true. That's true. You're not so, but Stephen, you're a whole ocean away from home.
Yes.
Anything that you miss?
I would say this was truer in the pre-COVID days, but when we lived in America or when we lived in London, we're big movie lovers. Mm-hmm. So we would go to the movies really every week. We really, really enjoyed that, and it was a shared passion. Here, because of my language deficiencies, but also it's just less of a movie culture. A lot, they get the blockbusters, but in LA or San Francisco or London, we get to see interesting independent films. Right. Obviously, streaming has really helped. Yeah. But we're just people who always loved a movie theater and having that big screen experience and seeing big mass films, but also a lot of interesting niche films. That is not really possible here outside the big cities. And then I would say cuisine.
Yes, that's what I was going to add.
I was curious about that one. Yes.
That's very difficult. It's either Italian, or if you want something else, either it's a big city like Torino or Milan, or
right.
Otherwise, around here, it's impossible to find.
I can't emphasize that enough. It is something you give up coming here, in that, and again, I want accepting a Rome or a Florence or a Milan. It's kind of pizza or nothing. I mean, it is really Italian food.
It's very good.
I mean, because
very good food. Yes, we know that.
When we lived in big cities, we loved Korean food and Indian food and Mexican food and Cuban food and all the cuisines and American food. Right. It's just you're by and large you're going to give up all of that. And it's obviously the good thing is Italian food is one of the great cuisines of the world. So you're generally eating something delicious, and usually it's quite inexpensive. So there's great value for money. But if you're accustomed to having that kind of variety of food, that will be a change. And in that case, you just make sure either you learn how to cook all of those cuisines you love, right. Or you make sure that you do venture out to an Italian city or a city elsewhere and get your fill. When we go to a city, we are eating some, Indian or Thai or Mexican every night of the week.
I missed that
because we're not going to find it back in Colosso. So it's funny to be somebody living in Italy and complaining about food.
You're not the first one, actually.
That is a change. You'll eat well, you'll eat reasonably, but there's just not going to be that much variety.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. I totally get it. Yes. But even though you're exposed to great Italian regional food, great wine, obviously, but I do definitely think about that one. Anybody that's watching, is this like, if you are used to every single week going to a different restaurant, representing a different country or culture, think about not having that. And that's really what you're saying. It's not saying that you don't enjoy the cuisine.
People say, learn how to cook Indonesian food yourself or cook Indian food. But sometimes the ingredients are just not available.
Yes.
Here, there are a lot of ingredients that if Italians don't cook with it in Italian cuisine, it's simply not on the store shelf. Right. So that can be a challenge. But again, I don't, we go get it. Cilantro. If you're a cilantro lover, this is not your country. But yeah, it's difficult. You learn to get your fill of foreign food when you get out of town.
Yeah, and you're traveling, and like you said, I mean, if you want that, you can go to the big cities in Italy, and you're going to get that selection too.
That's fun.
Yeah, so, I land in America, and I've got like a donut in one hand and cheese in the other, and a big Starbucks latte, etc. Just all the and I'm not saying Starbucks is the best coffee in the world, but just all the things you kind of
the tradition, the things that we know. Yeah,
in your New York or LA or Chicago life, it's fun to get reacquainted with them when you get back.
No, definitely. So the next 10 years, where do you think you will be? More properties, less properties, slowing down? What's your goal?
Maybe slowing down, but I think always have some little renovation going on. And, now I think we're so busy with this and getting it, going and getting all the bookings and all these reservations. So dealing with that, and then, but I think, I don't know. I still think we'll still be in Italy. It's hard to Stephen, really, but yeah, I don't know. I see ourselves here. Maybe the slower renovation, less intense.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I mean, we've made a big commitment to Italy. We made a big investment in Italy. We love Italy and we believe in Italy. So, and the lifestyle, honestly, as far as we're concerned, is pretty hard to top. It is probably the most beautiful country in the world. It's just, landscapes, architecture, art, everything rolled in. It's, to be cliche, it is a feast for the eyes almost every day. Yeah. So we're spoiled in that respect, and we really do absorb that and enjoy it. So I can't see where we'd be headed next. We don't have plans to go back to America. I feel I'm an American, but I feel very comfortable as a European. And so this is where I choose to be, maybe forever, but certainly for the foreseeable future. And as far as more properties, no. I think we did a lot of.
Okay, Ricardo, you heard that, okay?
No. We're tired. We're exhausted. Don't tell our guests we're exhausted. No, I think it was honestly, it was a creative outlet when we found it was a shared passion, and that together we're a good team at it. Yeah. And that, Ricardo can really juggle a lot of balls in doing these projects. I think it was for us when we're doing our regular jobs, and I was lucky to work, at Warner Brothers or Versace. So there was creativity around me always, but this was really, we were making great transformations happen. And again, we kind of felt like we were making a positive contribution to Italy or wherever we were. So, but no, I think that bug has passed, and now we think Villa Giara will be successful. We're cautiously optimistic, but initial reactions and responses are very positive, and we love it. So I think we want to focus on this and making it as good as it possibly could be. And the other stuff, the renovations, on the back burner. I don't think we'll ever do it to the degree that we did these past 10 years. But of course, it'll, when you see a beautiful old building that's just sort of crumbling and you think, what could that be?
I
I could, for not too much money, I could really make that something extraordinary. Sometimes it's hard to resist, but I think we've got our hands full right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the latest project. And definitely if you are interested in the Piemonte region, which I can't understand why anybody wouldn't, you want to be in the countryside, you want to be surrounded by vineyards, great wine, great food, truffles. and like you said, conveniently located between Torino and Genoa, and, Liguria. It sounds absolutely ideal. So we'll make sure, because you did send me a few links, but please, let's focus on Villa Giara today, since you recently have it, and this is your exciting new project. So tell us, how do we find Villa Giara online, social media?
So we are on Instagram, and it's at Villa, obviously Villa, and Giara, which is the Italian word for vase or jar. And actually it was, people asked why the name, because one of the farmhouses that is now Villa Giara, that's what its name was years ago. And so we kept it, we like it. So it's Giara. At Villa Giara is our Instagram account, and www.villagiara.com is our website. And if you would like to make a trip and come see us this weekend, you can, or this
weekend, yes.
We're picking you up tonight. Yeah. Come on, we're waiting for you.
Love it.
If you'd like to see us this year, we would welcome you, and you could book right on the website.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, we'll make sure.
Lisa, that includes you.
Actually, I thought at first it wasn't an invitation to me, but it's for all of you who are watching.
We would consider you. We would consider you a VIP, and we would love to have you.
That's great. Well, I'm sure everybody will love the treatment, the breakfast, the surroundings, everything. We'll be sure to put the links below. Of course, we are Live in Italy magazine. The website is www.liveinItalybag.com. Easy on social media. Obviously, we are on YouTube. Please continue to watch, like, subscribe, comment. That is so important. You've helped this channel grow, and we were never expecting that, but visit the website, follow at Live in Italy Mag on social media. So it was a delight, worth the wait, talking to both of you. I'm so excited for you. I've been seeing this, come to fruition on social media. You have some excellent photos. It just looks like a gorgeous, gorgeous location, place to be. So thank you, Stephen and Ricardo, for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa. And to all your viewers, don't be afraid. Make the leap. Come to Italy or wherever your dream country is. It can come true.
That's
Thank
great.
you very much, Lisa.
You say that so positively. Okay, bye. Buonasera.